Hello and welcome to another scrapbooking process video. I'm Tracy, also known as MercyTiara, and I do scrapbooking process videos and more here on my channel. Today I'm going to be scrapbooking using the Joy Kit and add-ons from MercyTiaraKits.com, and I'm actually going to be scrap lifting myself. I'm going to be following a layout that I created back in 2016. Here's the layout on my screen right now. It was called Quadruple Photobomb, and you can watch the process video for that one in the card that's linked up in the top right hand corner right now. But I'm going to be, I have 3 photos to scrap, 2 go together and 1 is separate. I'll be scrapbooking that one of my daughter and the cat separately in a different video, but today I'm going to be scrapbooking these 2 photos of my family and myself at our annual food drive that we have here in our neighborhood. I'm going through the patterned paper in the Joy kit. First of all, this is the first layout that I'm making with this kit, so everything is intact, which is really nice. It can be a little overwhelming to try to choose what you're going to scrapbook with which papers, especially at the beginning of a kit. So I do have a tool that I use that I will be sharing with you folks soon here on my channel that I just use to help plan out how I plan to use a kit. So keep an eye out on my channel for that. But in the meantime, I'm going to be pulling out these 4 beautiful papers. I need 4 main patterned papers for the layout that I want to do here with these 4 triangles making up a square for my background. Those are the 4 that I'm going with, and I specifically chose one that doesn't have a terribly busy pattern. That is the, oops, I made a little quick replacement there. But that green one, the really mint green one, first of all, I adore that paper. And this kit has a really nice combination of funky modern color scheme as well as traditionals. As you saw me flip through there, you'll notice lots of traditional red, green, and gold and white and so on. But there's also some lime greens, some pinks, some tealy bluey greens, and some really fun colors in there as well. That should give you a good variety of different looks with this kit. Now, I do want to cut these into exact diagonals, so I had to just do a little bit of experimenting here to see what was going to fit. I was hoping that that I could cut across the diagonal with my Caterpillar crop, but it's not quite long enough to do that. So I just hand cut, which was pretty easy on this first one because it has stripes on it. So I was able to just cut it along one line. And now what I'm doing is I could fold it and then cut across the fold, but I didn't think I'd get a perfect look with that. So I just found the center mark and notched it, and then I'm going to line it up on my trimmer so that that center mark and the very tippy corner would go along the edge of my trimmer. Now that I have one of these triangles, I'm going to trace it in order to cut that exact same shape out of the other 3 papers. And I'm switching to use my Caterpillar crop because it does have a little bit longer of a cutting surface than my Fiskars trimmer does. So I will do this on all 3 of the remaining papers, and I'm just making sure that I'm drawing my line across the back side of that paper so that I don't have to go back and worry about erasing if I don't cut it at the exact same shape. Now, this is going to give me 4 triangles that are going to be exactly 12 inches, and I actually don't want that. I do want a little bit of white matting around the outside edges, so I'm going to cut down these triangles, but first I just need to get the basic shape cut, and then I'll decide how much I want to cut them down. So there we go. Now we have 4 triangles. I actually have 5 triangles, but I don't need that other one. And I'm going to piece them together just like this. And as I mentioned, that lime green paper at the top, I specifically chose a not too busy pattern there because that's where I think my title is going to go. So I just popped the original layout up here, and you can see that the photobomb title, it's actually Quadruple Photobomb, is up on the top quadrant there. And I'm going to do that on mine as well. Now what I'm doing right here is just figuring out how much I need to cut off of these triangles in order to have the size border that I want, like the size of matting that I want. I want the whole thing matted on white patterned paper. And I'm erring on the side of cutting it a little bit bigger than it needs to be because I can always cut it down if I need to. And I want basically, I want my outside edges to be the same size as my inside edges. And that means that I need to make it a little bit smaller than I think I need it to be. Now, I didn't want to measure because my trimmers are all in inches and the measurement was working out in centimeters. So what I ended up doing was I marked it and trimmed it on one of them. And then I used that piece of washi tape there basically as a jig. So I'm lining each piece up with that piece of washi tape that's on my trimmer so that I'm cutting the exact same amount off of each of these squares, triangles. So now I'm just going to try this out and see if I'm getting the proportions that I want in terms of that little white edge that I want to show around the outside edges as well as the inside X that's going to be formed in the center of my layout here. And this is just a little bit too small. I wanted a bit more white showing on the inside of that X. I like the outside proportions of that matting, but I'm going to cut it down just a wee little bit more. So bear with me while I trim off a little bit from each of these edges. So skip forward a little bit and we have a little bit cut off of each of those edges now. And I'm just going to piece this back together again. And now I'm getting, see, that's just a little bit more of a little bit more white showing on those center lines on that big cross that goes through the page. And I really like that. That looks great. And basically I wanted that center X to be the same proportion as the outside matting. So that's why I trimmed off a little bit more. Now I'm just going to use my ATG to stick this down, and I do plan to sew along the outside edges of each of these triangles. So I'm actually placing my ATG a little bit more in the center of the papers. That way I am less likely to sew through the glue. I do have a dedicated sewing machine that I use just for scrapbooking, but I still would rather not sew through the glue if I don't have to, because it does have a tendency to gum up the insides of your machine. Now I want to add some bold contrast to this page, so I just grabbed some black cardstock from my stash. I grabbed 2 pieces, but then I realized I had a scrap I could use, so that's what I'm using here. I do have 2 photos that are different orientations, so I have a landscape and a portrait. Those can be tricky to scrapbook together. That L shape that they create can be a little bit tricky for designing around. So I'm going to combine them into one rectangular unit, and then I'm going to fill that gap with a piece of paper that I'll use for journaling. Now I'm just going to create a little placeholder here. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do. If I'm going to I could put a piece of pattern paper, I could put a piece of journaling. There's all sorts of different things I could do with this. But for now, I'm just going to cut a piece of white paper, and I may just go with that and add lines to it, or I may exchange it for something else. We shall see. So I'm going to go ahead and glue those down onto my black cardstock. I did a last minute switch here to make the dominant photo, like the photo with the people in it, to be on top, because that is my more important photo from a storytelling perspective. So I wanted it to be on top instead of underneath. And now I'll cut that whole thing down to one basic rectangle that is much, much easier to work with than an L-shaped design. So there we go. Now as I did in the original layout, I'm going to be placing my photos in the center, and as opposed to the original one, I'm actually going to orient it a little bit towards the bottom. Now, I really liked this little cut apart piece with the lines on it, so I decided to cut that apart right away and use that potentially as my journaling piece there. So I just cut it out and set it aside along with the photo, and I'm going to run all of this through my sewing machine. This is a Genome Sew Mini / New Home. It was called both of those, and both of those names. It's harder to get these days, but if you're able to nab one, I highly recommend this sewing machine for a lightweight, easy to move, easy to store sewing machine. It's wonderful. So as you can see, I'm just making sure that it's set on a straight stitch, and I am going to sew around the triangular outsides of each of these patterned papers. And I'm just using black thread to add to that contrast that will pick up on the black matting. And when I get to the corner, I do advance by hand so that I can get into the very tippy corner. Then I lift my presser foot. You'll see me do it here. I lift the presser foot and then I turn the paper to get a nice sharp design, a nice sharp corner. And you just want to make sure that you're lifting the presser foot with the needle in the paper, and then you'll get really nice crisp corners. I did cut out some of the sewing so that you didn't have to watch me do the same thing 4 different times, but this is how it turns out. Now, I did sew very wonky on one part, so I went back and sewed it again straighter, and so it has a very imperfect look, but that is all right. This is the way it goes with using sewing machines and mixed media and whatnot on your pages. So as you can see, I've got a double line there, but that's all right. I don't mind it. If I really minded it, I could have always cut another triangular piece of that red polka dotted paper, sew the whole thing all over again, and just lay it on top of the piece that's already there and cover it up. Or I could have arranged my embellishments so that it would cover up that line as well, but I'm just going to leave it. As you saw there, I used Scotch foam tape to pop my rectangular photo collage thing up from the page. And if you wanted even more dimension, you could pull up the edges of each of those triangles and run your fingernail along them to make it really distressed and textured looking. I chose to just leave the edges flat, but that textured look looks really amazing as well. I need to choose a title, and I was originally thinking about placing my title on the diagonal as it was in the original layout, but I'm going to end up going with a different look for this one, which I'm happy about. I don't like 2 of my layouts to look that much the same, even though they're several years apart from one another. I would love to use these Vicky Bouton phrase thickers. They're just so beautiful, and I love that they're black. And because it kind of picks up on the bold black elements that I'm trying to add to this one. So one of my patrons who was watching, I was live streaming while I was doing this, and one of my patrons reminded me or pointed out that the word holiday is in this little goodie bag from Vicky Bouton that comes in the add-on. Or no, I think it comes in the main kit. Anyhow, it comes in one of the kits, and that word holiday was working really well because I wanted it to say holiday wishes or holiday kickoff or something like that. So I'm spelling out kickoff with the thickers that come in the kit, and those are definitely from the add-on. And I find that I like the contrast between the letters for kickoff and the scripty word holiday, but I think the word holiday is just a little bit too formal. I'm not loving that particular combination of fonts. When I'm combining fonts, I like them to look really different from one another. And I think that this handwritten font from the Vicky Bouton thicker phrases is going to combine much, much better with the letters in the word kickoff. So we'll go with Christmas kickoff instead of holiday kickoff. And I just wanted to center that a little bit. And also I had to poke out the little inside bits from the loopty part of the T and the little loop on the R as well. So there's the word Christmas, and then the word kickoff fits very nicely underneath there. I'm going to cut that doily in half so I don't end up wasting half of it, because I really only need half of it to be showing. I want to place the photo collage before I stick kickoff in there so that I can position kickoff nicely between the horizontal black line of the photo collage and the word Christmas. So I will attach the doily to the photo collage first and make sure I'm leaving enough room for the word kickoff. And I also want to center this. I'm going to take off all of those adhesive backings, and then I'm going to position this down there. Just going to use my T-square ruler here just to make sure that I'm positioning this relatively straight like that. And oops, I actually want that doily to be just a wee little bit higher and also further inside, a little bit more covered up. And now I can center the word kickoff on this straight black line. So it's pretty easy to place your letters when you've got a nice straight horizontal line like this on your design. There we go. It looks like I'm going to nudge all of those over a little bit, which gives my little hyphen between kick and off a little bit more space. And I'm also going to place a little exclamation point there because the K and the F were not exactly lining up on both sides. So the exclamation point takes up a bit of space there to make them look a little bit more balanced. Now, the phrase stickers actually came with these little emphasis lines and I liked how they were placed on the sticker sheet. So I was telling my Patreon viewers who were watching along in the live stream, there's no need in reinventing the wheel. Someone else has already decided that these lines look nice like this, so I'm going to just place them exactly where they were. Next, I'm going to grab my roller date stamp, and I'm actually not ready to stamp it yet, but I just set it to November 21st, 2023, so I wouldn't, and I just placed my roller date stamp out on my desk so that I don't forget to date this. I'm having a look through some of the die cut pieces that come with this kit. This kit comes with some really beautiful die cut sets from the Sugar Plum Wishes collection, as well as more from the Vicki Boutin Peppermint Kisses collection. And I'm having a look and just picking out anything that I think will look nice and coordinate with either the story I'm trying to tell or the design that I have going on, like with the color scheme and whatnot. These die cut floral pieces are absolutely gorgeous. I don't end up using any of them, but they're so beautiful. It's just a joy to flip through them, even if I don't end up using any of them. But as you can see, I'm just trying different ones along the edge there. I haven't quite decided yet whether that little block of white on my photo collage is going to hold an embellishment or if it's going to hold some journaling. I definitely have some journaling that I'll need to figure out where to put. If it doesn't go there, that seems like the most obvious place to put journaling. So we'll see. I'm just explaining that bottom photo is a photo of the garage before it's all filled up with groceries. The banana boxes are all stacked up. But what we do every year is as the groceries come in, they get boxed by volunteers. We helped with that part as well for a little bit this year. We both go door to door, and then we all go door to door, and then we also meet up at the main drop-off place, and we help to box up all the groceries before somebody takes it off to the food bank. So you saw me going through the Vicki Boutin goodie bag, and I picked out those beautiful vellum hearts that are looking a little lopsided when they're both on one side, but we'll spread them out a little bit more. And at this point, I'm still thinking I might use some of those floral pieces, but I don't think I'm going to end up putting any of those on the page. That little bird looked so cute there. It almost looked like he was helping out with the groceries. So I decided to put him there for sure. And this ho 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 is beautiful and perfect. I love how it picks up on that lime green that's at the top of the page. I just need it to be a little bit more bold than it is. So I'm using a thick tipped marker and I'm just going along the very edge of it. As you can see, I'm running my marker so that it actually drops off the edge of the die cut. So that's why I'm doing it on a little scratch piece of paper there. Now this overhangs from the photo collage, which is popped up, to the background paper, which is not. So I had to use some foam adhesive pieces there just to hold the space. And I think I'll have that little scribbly heart look like it's coming out from behind the doily. And I'm going to add some black to this as well. There's so many black elements on this page that I really wanted a lot of these embellishments to have a black touch to them. So outlining all of the different parts of the bird like that just ties in the bird to the other things that are on the page and helps it look a little bit less discrepant with one another. Added a little piece of foam to hold up the little birdie's tail. And that is not quite right from a balance perspective. Like I'm just feeling like I need a little bit more black on this page to balance out that very, very large heart. One thing I could have done, it's like a very large and very dark, heavy heart. So one thing I could have done is I could have cut it down a little bit, then it wouldn't have so much emphasis on the page. But I didn't, I kind of like that it's big, but it needs a little something else with it. I'm going to, as you can see, I cut off the edge of it just to allow it to slip under, make it look like more of it is slipped under the photo collage. And there are more black elements in this goodie bag. So I'm just going to pick out a couple of other pieces. I'm going to experiment with a few things, but ultimately I'm going to end up picking out mostly hearts and stars from this. So that is looking a little bit more balanced as far as just having more black on the page to balance out the black that was already on there. I find that the outside edge on this heart is just a little bit too much, so I trimmed it down like that just to make it look more like the star that's on the other side. So I have a star on each side and a heart on each side, and I have one paper item and other acetate or vellum items as well. Now this star just felt like it wasn't really matching the other things. It was the only outliney see-through thing that was on my page. And so what I decided to do is I'm just marking off all of the corners, like the tips and the inside elbow edges of the star. And then I'm going to cut it down like this. And now this should be the exact same shape as the star. And I did have to erase some of my pencil marks there. It's going to take me a minute or two to just figure out how it's going to line up. But eventually I will find it, and I'm going to be very proud of myself when I do, because I was about to give up and think, oh, it's just not going to fit perfectly. But then I figured it out. Look at that. It fits perfectly just like that. Now, if I just use a piece of ATG, I thought about, obviously, I gave it a try because I thought maybe it'll work, but I was pretty sure it wouldn't work because you can see the ATG. It's not the end of the world if you can see the ATG, right? But it was going to bug me. So one of my patrons suggested that I use a Xyron sticker maker for this. So I decided to do that and then immediately realized, wait a second, I just put stickiness on the bottom of it instead of on the top of it. But that's okay because I do eventually need to stick it to my layout. So it's good that the star is sticky on the back, but I needed it sticky on the front so that I could lay this. And what the sticker maker does is it makes sure that the whole thing is coated in an even layer of adhesive. And that means that you're not going to see it through. The problem with it is that clear overhang part got really sticky and messy. And so I was needing to like use my fingers to wipe the stickiness off of that extra clear outline edge. So what I've decided to do is just cut it right off. I couldn't get it so that it was not going to look messy, and I don't love glue showing. So I'm going to cut off all of that extra background edging. It was clear anyways. And then I'm just going to glue this right onto my page. It's already sticky on the back, so I didn't even have to use adhesive. So there we go. Tara was suggesting that I try the Tombow Vellum Tape Runner, so I might try that at some point in the future. I have used that before. Tombow actually sent me a bunch of really awesome adhesive, but I used it all up, and I haven't used it for a long time. So I might pick up another roll of that at some point. Making a few changes to that composition. And Tara also suggested that those transparencies would look amazing layered over the glitter paper that came in the kit. So that's also a really great idea for another layout. So I was trying to decide if I'm going to use this journaling piece that I cut out because it's a little off-white and the rest of the things on the page are whiter white. It's not actually off-white, it's like a gray white with the pink lines, but I did decide to go with it. I do want it to have the same white border that the photos have, and I did not want to mat it with white paper. I don't know why. I was just feeling like I'm not in a matting mood. So I just used this is my Sakura Jelly Roll 10 white gel pen. And it's really great for adding white highlights to things. And I've been using it to outline things. So that just helps that journaling piece tie in with the photos that are already there because it has a white border just like those photos do. It says, the Halliburton Food Drive is the first holiday activity for the Banksfords. It feels like the activity that marks the start of the season. This year, Liv had to work, so that's why she's not present in the photo. Because she's in university, she has really restricted hours when she can work, so she tries to work as much as she can because she needs that money. But yeah, so she didn't have the luxury of being able to say no to a shift in order to participate in the food drive this year. It's now vellum. I'm just outlining that heart, which is made out of vellum. And vellum is a little bit harder to outline than paper. It's not as porous and the ink doesn't stick to it quite as much. So I had to be a little bit more patient with that than usual, but it worked out okay. I'm going to layer this star and layer it in a way that its legs are not going to cover up anything important in the journaling, or I also didn't want its arms or head to overlap with Sophie's face at all. I'm just showing a little bit about how that heart looks when it's outlined. Now I do have some other embellishments here that I had set aside as potentially coordinating. Because this is a neighborhood activity, I thought putting a little house there would be relevant and would support the story as well as also look really cute. I'm cutting a little chunk off of the edge of it so that it layers underneath the photo collage a little bit better. And I'll just use my ATG to stick that down. And it looks really cute right there. I like it a lot. It does need a little bit of a touch of black just so that it coordinates and fits in with everything else that's on the page. So I'm just using my Sharpie pen here to outline the roof line, the chimney, the outside edge of the house as well, and also the door. I didn't want to outline every single thing because that can look a little busy, but I just wanted to give a touch of black every here and there on that embellishment. I actually don't want to add too much over on the left-hand side because that patterned paper is so busy. That's why I chose those really high impact black embellishments to put on both the candy cane stripe paper, but more importantly on that very dense floral paper over there on the left-hand side. This is a little embellishment that says special delivery, and I cut off the edge. It was part of a larger embellishment. And I'm going to place a couple of gold enamel dots that came in the kit. I'm going to place them every here and there. I want to break up some of that black heaviness, so I put some of them on the black elements, and I put them every here and there as well in little pairs. Pairs that include one large and one small, or one medium and one small. And that just brings a little touch of gold to the page to pick up on the gold doily that's on one of the lower levels. I did stamp my roller date stamp that I had set already to November 21st. I was a little bit reluctant to do so because I should have stamped it before I put that embellishment on the page because it's actually popped up with foam tape. So it didn't stamp all that well, but it's fine. I like that messy look anyways, so we just went with it. And I'm just tidying up all my embellishments, putting them back in the Ziploc bags. I love storing my embellishments in Ziploc bags because it's just so easy to get them in and out. Before I share the photos, just a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters. These folks help make this channel happen, so big thanks to all of them. Patrons get early access to all my process videos as well as unedited real-time versions of my videos and a few other perks as well. Look at how this layout turned out. I'm so pleased with it. It looks so similar to the original one, but also with a fun holiday splash. I love this color scheme for the holidays. That lime green just totally makes this page, and I can't wait to use more of the lime green in other pages as well. There's the layout again. Here are some of the places that you can reach me on social media. You can see my Patreon there. Our Kit Club website is there. Please join our MercyTiara Kit Club Facebook group because we're sharing lots of ideas of how to use the kits over there. It's a real community that's growing, and it's really fun to interact over there as well. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and check out any of these videos if you haven't seen them yet. Take care and have a really great scrappy week.